So another diversion. Here's a stone that normally a lot of people would say you shouldn't bother faceting a stone like this. But I'll tell you a couple things about this stone. One is that I found it myself. It's a chalcedony. Some might call it carnelian. I don't like to call it carnelian because the orange color is just on the outside. The iron oxide somehow is not distributed. It's just on the outside, and I found it in a stream by a river where the stream converges with a river, which is one place that you can find stuff like this. It's fun stuff. Now, if you notice, it's translucent. It's neither opaque nor transparent. You can't see through it. So the fellow who instructed me in the class that I took on faceting would say, no point in faceting this. None. Total waste of time from his perspective. And that's a common point of view. And then there's what seems to be a minority opinion, which is to say, well, if it returns light, you can facet it. The thing is, there's nothing critical about the angles anymore. I haven't talked here about the geometry and physics of faceting, partly because I know so little about it. I'm just learning it myself, but that's true of everything we're doing, everything I'm doing with you here. So at some point, we could talk a little bit more about critical angles, what this whole business is about. Why are these angles so specific? We haven't looked at anything that prompted that, so we will. But for now, let's just say that there's nothing important about the angles for a stone like this, where the structure, the molecular structure of this stuff, this is chalcedony, is microcrystalline or maybe even cryptocrystalline quartz, which means that the crystals are so small you can't even see them with a light microscope. You would have to use, I guess, an electron microscope. So I am making this for someone who said specifically that she did not want something glitzy, flashy, even polished. She wanted something rough but beautiful, and she specifically requested this material, this chalcedony that she knew I had hunks of that I'd found. So I chose a design, and I'll show you at some point here how one goes about doing that, at least insofar as I have learned. I chose a design that seemed like it would fit the size and shape of the stone, particularly the shape. This is my first, I think, oblong, I don't know if that's the right word, but the first one that's not round. Do I have anything else to say about this? I think I chose too big a dop. So we'll see that the dop is taking up a lot of the bottom of the stone, but I think it's okay because I'm not going to have to dig too deep on this stone. I'm not going to have to cut too deep because I'm really not going to be very particular about things. And is there anything else I can say about this? Probably not. I think the last thing I'll show you, since there's still a couple usable minutes here, is this. This I actually made up as I went along, and I didn't finish polishing it, which is what you see on the crown here. And I started with crown this time, which is unusual, but it's also unusual for someone like me, like a beginner, to just make it up as they go along. That's kind of a weird thing to do as a beginner. It does reflect how I like to do things, though, and so I just took this 64 index quill and said, all right, well, this is really easy to think about. 64 is neatly divided by 8, by 4, and so forth. And so there's a basic octagonal structure here, and it's again an oblong stone that I'm working with. This one I'm making for my sister. I don't know why I didn't say the other one was for my mom. Why didn't I want to say that? I don't know. You can see that I experimented with facets in such a way that some of these facets are just great, and some of them have an extra little facet on them. That one does. A lot of people wouldn't notice that. Anyone who knows anything about gems would notice that there's some silly stuff happening here that only a beginner would have put there. That extra facet, kind of randomly here and there, because I was experimenting, and I'm not really sure what the crown is going to look like. So that's kind of exciting. Okay, today was show and tell. I guess the very last thing. I guess I'm making these a little longer now. Uploading's going to be annoying. The very last thing is that this one, which I had supervision for, which is an old mine cut. It's called Old Mine. I don't know why. That's what it's called. It can't be cut on a 64 index for some reason. And I'm thinking either I'm going to order a 96 index, which cuts the circle up into 96 equal parts instead of 64. These are nice facets, though not perfect, in part, as I said, because I had supervision. So I'm trying to get close to this quality of cut. Needs a little more polishing up top, a little more fixing to be closer to perfect. Perfect is kind of the standard among amateur stonecutters or faceters. And then I might end up putting a crown on it that doesn't match. I know I like to do everything completely wrong, but I might find a crown design that can go with 64 index. And you can see there's two flaws there that I think the crown will exclude. But something that fits the eightfold symmetry that we have here for the crown, and that might interact well with this current pavilion. Or maybe I'll just wait. All right, now I really am going to shut up and move on.